You have 30 days to remove that trestle. Vivian Sterling, the HOA president, all sleek black suit and razor-sharp heels, screamed it right into my face, then clicked away across the gravel like a ticking clock. I just looked at the notice taped to the iron gate my grandfather had forged. 30 days to remove the bridge, or they'd remove it for me. It wasn't just a deadline, it was a threat, wrapped up in fancy HOA letterhead. But she didn't know what I knew. They wanted my land, my small, quiet piece of Morrow Creek, and they thought a piece of paper, a little legal muscle, was enough of a weapon. But here's the thing about real power. The loudest voice isn't always the one holding the cards. Sometimes it's the quiet one, the one who built the deck in the first place, sitting back and just watching. I was watching that Monday morning. 7 a.m., the sunlight cutting through my old kitchen window, falling across the counter where I'd spent my whole life. The house creaked once, a good sound, the kind that says, I'm still standing. Outside, Morrow Creek ran slow beneath the little timber trestle my grandfather, Silas, built back in '54. The water caught the light, silvery and cold, reflecting up through the sycamore trees. Then I heard the engine, a dark, expensive SUV crunching gravel on the county road, pulling up outside my gate. Vivian Sterling first, of course, precise, determined, already decided how the story would end. 2 board members trailed her, clipboards held out like shields. She taped something to the metal. Then she turned, looked straight at my house, my family's home, and her mouth tightened into something between a warning and a smirk. Gone in less than 2 minutes. I waited until the engine sound was totally gone before I walked out. The air smelled like wet leaves and creek water. The notice fluttered slightly against the iron gate. The bluffs at Red Tail Ridge Homeowners Association, notice of violation. Below that, in angry, bold type, unauthorized structure identified on shared easement. Owner must remove within 30 days or face legal action. Daily fines of $500 will apply. Shared easement. They were claiming the bridge my family built 70 years ago, on land we owned before this whole valley was anything but dirt roads and scrub, was common property. I went inside, pulled out the old metal file box my grandfather gave me when I turned 18, the one that always sticks unless you pull it just right. Deeds, survey maps, old black and white photos. The 1970 map, faded but clear, showed the trestle sitting entirely within Croft property lines. In the margin, my grandfather's handwriting. Easement agreement. Verbal goodwill only. Goodwill. That was the foundation of everything out here. Let the neighbors use the bridge. Let the county run a power line. He'd even built a small substation on the property when the valley started to grow, thinking it would serve everyone fairly. I traced the property line with my finger, then looked out towards the bluffs. 120 pristine homes packed behind brick walls and electric gates. I noticed something else, that slight, almost unnoticeable flicker in their fancy street lamps. I'd seen it last week, too. Small power fluctuations. I called my lawyer, Iris Calloway. I told her about the notice. 3 seconds of silence, I counted. They can't do that, Arden. The bridge is private property. I'll draft a response. Don't touch a thing. I hung up, but I didn't move. Instead, I opened the other drawer, the deep one, and ran my hand across the thick file inside. Morrow Creek Power Supply Agreement, 1998. I didn't need to open it right then. I just rested my hand there and looked out towards the trestle. It was wide enough for 1 car, steel supports, wooden planks. It connected my place to County Road 47, which was the quickest way to town and, more importantly, the only stable way into the bluffs. Sure, there was Oak Drive winding up from the south, but it was steep, prone to erosion, and after last week's rain, I remembered the landslide risk signs. They posted those every autumn. The following night, it got cold. I was in my workshop trying to keep my hands busy, fixing a radio. Then I heard it. Mechanical, distant, wrong for that time of night. A saw. The high, angry whine of a circular saw cutting through wood. I grabbed my jacket and ran. The sound got louder coming from the trestle. Bright work lights cutting harsh white circles into the darkness. And then I saw them. 3 men in safety vests tearing up the decking, sparks flying, a crowbar prying the planks. And standing apart, arms crossed, watching like a warden, Vivian Sterling. "Stop!" I screamed it, but the saw just ate the sound. I got closer, close enough to feel the vibration beneath my feet. "Stop! This is private property." The man with the saw finally killed the motor. The silence was heavy, immediate. Everyone turned to me. Vivian smiled. Not friendly, sharp. "Mr. Croft," she said, her voice calm, rehearsed. "You received notice. We're simply removing the hazard." "This bridge is on my land," I said. "You're trespassing." She tilted her head slightly. "The bridge crosses a shared easement. The HOA has a responsibility to maintain safe access for the community. Your structure is a liability." I felt a cold dread settle in my gut. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a folded paper. "We have documentation that says otherwise. You can challenge it in court, but by then, this hazard will be gone." I called 911. The line was full of static. I gave my address, said there were trespassers destroying my property. "Is anyone in immediate danger?" the operator asked. I looked at the 3 men with saws, at Vivian standing there like she owned the night. "They are destroying my bridge right now," I said. "Send someone." 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, Officer Dunar arrived, flashlight in hand. Just another weary cop who'd seen too many property "It was bad," Iris said, watching the drone footage I'd shot the next morning. Evidence of trespass, property destruction, open and shut. But then I told her about the power, about the substation, about the 50-year contract. Her pen stopped moving completely. "You own their power supply?" she finally asked, leaning back in her chair, staring at the ceiling. "And the contract has a termination clause if they breach." A long moment. "That changes everything," she said. "You're not the victim here, Arden. You're holding leverage they don't know about." I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, I told her. I just wanted them to understand that their actions had consequences. "Then we do this right," Iris said. "We give them every legal option to make this right before we go nuclear." We drafted the Notice of Breach, 8 pages of citations to property law, contract law, precedent. A choice: repair the bridge, pay damages, publicly apologize, and recommend new leadership. Or face the 90-day termination notice for the power contract. "This is a nuclear option," she repeated. "Once we send this, there's no taking it back." I thought about my grandfather's words, about Vivian watching them tear everything apart. "Send it," I said. That evening, the first call came. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. I listened to it twice. Vivian Sterling's voice, tight with pure, raw anger. "You can't do this. You can't threaten to cut power to an entire community. I'll bury you in court, The message cut off. Not enough time to say everything she wanted. I saved the voicemail. 2 weeks later, the day after we filed the 90-day termination notice, the HOA called an emergency town hall. I went. The clubhouse was standing room only. Vivian and the corporate lawyer sat at the front, looking pale. Whispers spread as people noticed me standing in the back. A woman stood up, late 40s, sharp. I read the article. "You destroyed his bridge without legal authority." "Is that true?" Vivian's face went rigid. The bridge was a safety hazard. "The HOA has a responsibility." The woman cut her off. "Did you have an easement? Did you have an engineer inspect it? You started a fight with the man who supplies our power. Why would you do that?" The room fractured into chaos. Then a man, older with a military bearing, stood up. I recognized him as one of the board members who had voted against the bridge removal. His voice cut through the noise. "My name is on the board, and I need to say this. I voted against removing that bridge. I was overruled by the president who assured us she had authority." He turned to Vivian. "Did you have authority?" Vivian opened her mouth. The lawyer whispered something, and she sat down. The veteran looked at the crowd. "We need new leadership. I'm calling for a vote of no confidence." Then someone yelled from the back, "The solution is fixing what you broke." Heads turned. They were looking at me. I hadn't planned to speak, but the room was staring, waiting. I stepped forward slightly. "I'm Arden Croft," I said. I didn't need a microphone. The room was that quiet. I didn't come here to make speeches. I came to see if anyone would take responsibility. I looked at Vivian. She stared back, defiant. My grandfather built the substation that powers this community 70 years ago. Built it on goodwill. For 50 years, that goodwill held. Then your board destroyed my property in the middle of the night and told me to prove it was mine in court. I gave you options. You refused. You are in this situation because your leadership chose pride over accountability. I am not your enemy. I'm just the person who finally said no. An elderly woman near the front, her voice trembling slightly, asked, "What do we do?" I looked at her. You vote. You hold your board accountable. You remove the people who put you in this situation, and you make it right. You have 90 days to find alternative power. That's more than fair. It's more than I got when they destroyed my bridge. I walked out. The room erupted behind me. 2 weeks later, the headline read, HOA President Resigns Amid Scandal. The financial audit, triggered by the veteran board member, had shown $12,000 in personal expenses charged to community maintenance budgets. The bridge dispute suddenly looked minor. Vivian resigned, sold her house, moved out of state. Construction crews had been working on the bridge for a week. New lumber, reinforced supports, proper permits this time. The Bluff's insurance was covering it. I went out every morning to check their work. The foreman, a decent guy, apologized for the original crew's actions, even though it wasn't his fault. "Should have been done right the first time," he said. I appreciated that. Accountability without excuses. A few days later, the veteran board member came to my house, unofficially. He sat at my kitchen table, drinking coffee. "I'm apologizing," he said. "Not for the board, for myself. I saw bad leadership, and I stayed quiet, because I didn't want the conflict. That was cowardly." He met my eyes. "So, I'm apologizing for not standing up sooner." We reached a final settlement. $30,000 for damages and legal fees. Permanent recognition of my property rights, and they added something else. A new plaque, bolted right next to my grandfather's date, Croft Trestle. Private property. Community access granted with gratitude. I walked to the substation that evening, unlocked the gate. The equipment hummed its usual rhythm. I ran my hand along the transformer housing. It was still warm, still serving. My grandfather's words carved in the cornerstone, "Power serves. It does not rule." I'd finally understood what he meant. Power without restraint becomes tyranny. But power with boundaries, that could serve everyone. He'd built the infrastructure strong enough to teach. The lights of the Bluffs came on as I watched from my porch. Steady, reliable. That was the gift my grandfather had given this valley. Not power, but reliability. Not control, but service. And I had just proven that service requires respect. I want you to think about that. Where does power really come from in your community? Is it the loud, angry voice of the HOA, or the quiet infrastructure that keeps everything running? And what is the line between community goodwill and plain old entitlement? Where would you have drawn the boundary? Drop a comment below and tell me, if you were Arden, would you have cut the power on the 91st day, or would the settlement have been enough? Let's talk about the price of respect. And if you enjoyed this story, hit like and subscribe for more.